الموضوع. مثل ما قلت شكرا لكم، شكرا لكل الحضور. فكرت أول شيء ببلش بعطيكم a short bio about myself, just a quick background about who I am, وبعدين I introduce the topic يعني what you want to spend. اسمي باسل الحر، لبناني الأصل. Spent the first 20 years of my life بلبنان. I was raised and born بلبنان. وبعدين انتقلت من لبنان على الإمارات والخليج بشكل عام. I spent a good decade يعني 10 سنين تقريبا بالخليج قبل ما انتقل على كندا مع عائلتي. The beginning of my career is largely software engineering. I started as a software engineer, worked in a startup, building applications, ERPs. And then I grew into consulting and did it in multiple industries بالخليج. After that, I just moved to Canada with my family, where I moved from what I call the sell side of the business, of the technology business, to the buy side. And I've been on the buy side in the telco and financial industry for the past just under 20 years. So that's just quickly a brief background about me. And this webinar today, and in the theme of AI in general, but we have a lot of AI going on in our daily life. I thought that we can explore how to build an AI-ready enterprise, and how that, in particular, from a financial services industry. And the challenge that spans what I would call people, process, and platforms within the financial industry. And while there are many important pillars when it comes to an AI transformation journey for any organization, starting with we can go to this agenda, Sana, thank you. While there are many important pillars, as I said, for a broader AI transformation journey for any enterprise, we starting from a business strategy perspective, looking at the customer experience. It touches on governance, risk, ethics, and how we operate. Today's focus is going to be mainly on technology, and it's going to be a technology-centric discussion, simply because where I am, where I come from, and I think this is the forum about more mainly technology. And even within technology, when you talk about AI, there are multiple enablers for AI from a technology perspective, from information technology specifically. But I today will focus on what I'm calling 3 foundational enablers. So you're talking about infrastructure and some of the key I would call enablers and key trends within the infrastructure, data, and how data is impacting the AI journey for enterprises and in the financial industry. And I'm going to spend some more time on talent. Like talent, it's going to be very interesting to see how we evolve as professionals, and how we support our talent base to transition into what I call an AI era. These areas, and these foundation areas, in my opinion, are areas where IT leaders can make the biggest impact. Those IT leaders can remove roadblocks, accelerate adoption, and enable enterprise to move from an isolated pilot, which we've seen a lot of financial industry organization in the pilot, into a production-ready AI organizations. So this is the agenda. You can see it in front of you. So we finished. We go into the next slide and maybe double-click more on the infrastructure, and what is what kind of an infrastructure we're talking about to enable or to power an AI enabled enterprise. Now, what's interesting, over 25 years in the industry, every time there's a new acronym that comes into our technology and information technology, or a new technology, they all are the same, different flavors. We started with what we call the mainframes and the thin client, thick servers. We moved into the client server, back into what we call the web-enabled applications, or more thin clients, into more native mobile applications and all the architectures around it. Talk about how those experiences are enabled by technologies, whether they are APIs or web services, or all to say is many of what we've seen over the past 3-4 decades of building applications, when it comes to AI, you're looking at a different perspective on how we handle them. And if I put them into two pillars, you're talking about how we are going to modernize our IT architecture to enable the AI-powered enterprise, and what is needed in that infrastructure to support such a mandate. Now, on the modernization side, the opportunity here is simple. Now, and one thing that is important when to look at the financial industry and financial services, specifically in North America, the most of the big banks and big financial services are not born yesterday. So they are not cloud native. They are not digitally born organizations. Although many of the fintechs in the new era are so, the big financial players are not. And hence, over the years, you can see they've built monolithic applications, and hence to continue to evolve into and be what I would say AI future proof. You need to start find a way to transition yourself from the monolithic to the modular, from a more rigid platform to more flexible platforms. All to say, while it's easy to say, said, it's not easy. It's not easy to do. Lots of investment required, prioritization and investment. But that's key in modernizing IT infrastructure. How you can go from monolithic applications and platforms to more modular architecture. Then comes so you get them modularized, but then managing compute and intensive workloads. We're starting to see the impact of that compute. So I'll give you an example what we've been doing in the financial industry the past, I would say 10 years. We've been trying to get ourselves, and you can stay on this slide, it's fine. We've been trying to move from what I would say managing, being on-prem. So all our data centers are internal to our ecosystem, and we've started to move from the on-prem to the cloud. That is public cloud, the Amazons, the Googles, and the Microsofts of the world, and that compute moving into the cloud. We've started to see the impact from a I would say workload intensity by shifting that workload from the on-prem to the cloud. Now we are looking at a situation where that workload is basically going multiple folds higher within a span of months, not even the years that we've seen over there. And managing that compute and how you distribute your workloads between your on-prem and your cloud becomes very, very critical success factor, and it's something that we need to continue working on. And last but not least, in my opinion, is infrastructure as a code and automation in AI pipelines. You will no longer be able to survive in the AI world, especially with that compute level and the intensity of the compute workloads, without having your infrastructure flexible enough to scale up and down on demand. And that's where the infrastructure as a code comes in. That's where automation and AI pipelines become very important. Now, from an operational resiliency perspective, which I can talk about efficiencies, and just a second on that one, we talk about ensuring that you're having an uptime and you have an observability in place to support that kind of workload. Going to the next slide and talking about some of the constraints within the financial industry, financial service industry that we see every day. There are many constraints, but going back to the two big pillars of modernization and observability. From a modernization perspective, if you look at the banks, you look at the financial services that have a legacy stack, a technology stack, we have our core banking systems, or many of our core banking systems, are sitting in mainframes. And you can imagine sitting in the mainframes and the processing of a batch processing environment to go into a real time, not only from a transaction perspective, but also from how you manage your interaction with customers, having to have to work with that data is a challenge, and it's a balancing act because if you look at how much investment is required to get yourself off a mainframe, there's no single institution. I speak about North America, which I'm privy of, that is willing to cuff out the dollars up front. But it's going to be a journey over multiple years, if not a decade, before you be able to get to a point where you are out of your old legacy systems and technical debt. So that's a constraint that you need to work with. Data fragmentation and accessibility. We'll spend more data about inaccessibility, but we'll spend more data on the data in the second section of this. But largely, it is AI requires clean data, requires data that is well governed. It is real. Sometimes it is real time, especially when you're trying to deal with fraud and security postures. So data is a constraint, and within the financial industry, for the longest time, the institutions manage data as a separate by line of business. And consequently, that leads to a lot of fragmented data that we have. And as I said, we'll touch more on it. Compute and storage. Part of the journey is to move your compute from on-prem to the cloud, and your storage becomes a challenge. The journey to move to the cloud has started, as I said, 10 years, maybe a bit more in certain institutions. And we've came a long way moving a lot of our transactional compute workload to the cloud. The challenge is going to be with your data that resides in on-prem and some of your data that's now residing in the cloud, and managing that constraint around it, and how you manage the cost associated with it, which takes into the cost management component, is very, very important. And it's a constraint and a lever that you're going to have to play with day in, day out. And then comes the cloud complexity in a hybrid cloud. Today, we have a lot of our compute residing on-prem, even more now becoming a cloud native. Managing that interaction and the complexity of that ecosystem is a constraint that we are dealing with from a financial industry perspective, and something that we will have to deal with, and we have to design our ecosystem and our technology stack to operate in that, while at the same time not blowing up our budgets and our budgets and stability, application stability. Moving to the next slide. The next slide gives you just a quick overall trends in the market that we are seeing. If you think about the investments that's going now into from a technology perspective, the current stats as of 2025, that around 70% of IT organizations will be allocating at least 10% of their IT total budgets to AI initiatives. Now, the belief is over the coming 5 years that investment will accelerate exponentially, with a lot of organizations, once they get through what I call the pilots and get into a trust position, that's where this investment will start increasing. Infrastructure constraints, and I think it's interesting because you want to start investing in AI and put that much into it. But at the same time, we believe that the infrastructure is going to be the top barrier for our ability to enable AIs within the organization, and hence go back to that infrastructure discussion, how you balance it. Compute demand continues to increase. A lot of compute demand. You can see Microsoft continues to ramp up their investment in their data centers, their cloud data centers. And we'll continue to see this trend coming in the coming 5 to 10 years. Hardware network bottlenecks. I think we're already seeing bandwidth issues. We're trying to open pipes from a network perspective. So these are trends that are going to be, in addition to the constraints that we've discussed in the previous slide, are going to be factors on how you manage your infrastructure to enable an AI centric organization. So this is kind of a first flavor. So one of the 3 pillars, I said, the infrastructure. That's where we are. That's, I think, where the next paradigm of infrastructure build is going to be, which takes me to the next pillar of the discussion, where it's data, which is the next slide, Sana, please. So data, and kind of alluded to it earlier on some of the on the previous slide, but there's no AI without data. And I think many of us, and if not all of us, will know that. And what's interesting about the data in the financial industry, it is some of the legacy of taking of how we built our data in the past. If for those of you have lived long enough, from relational databases to data warehouses to recently data lakes. And when I say data lakes, it's recent. To be honest, it's been the 5 years or so. But now we're talking about lake houses, which is a combination of data warehouse, and a lake and a data lakes. And what is challenging in the financial industry, as I said earlier, is that all of these data, we have data warehouses, we have relational and transactional data sitting in relational databases, we have application logs sitting everywhere in our ecosystem, but it's all sitting in silos. Even within data, like customer-centric data, customer files and profiles, they are segregated between different lines of business. So you can see, you come to a North American bank, you will not be, it is not unheard of if you walk into any of the institutions and you see that your wealth customers have different profiles than the retail banking customers, have different profile than the investment customers. And I think that is a challenge, and how you put it together and how you bring it. And by the way, that as siloed, not only is a product of bad engineering, most of the time it is not, it's also driven by regulation and governance. Many of the regulations in the past pushed organizations to build these silos. So that's going to be a challenge to get that data ready and move into what I would call the AI-enabled data. Real-time versus batch is pipelines for AI enablement, and the quality of the data. How you can get to balance between real-time and a batch. I'm not saying we will be fully real time, or we definitely cannot be all batch. Batch is not bad in many situations, but we are moving more and more into what we call real time data pipelines. And the quality, and then they go to the which leads to me to the metadata management, lineage, and data quality controls. Without quality data, AI doesn't work. That's basically it. We know that. And in financial services, the cost of poor data is particularly high. And we're seeing this today without AI. So let alone when you get AI into the picture, that data and how the quality of that data is critical to our success in implementing AI-enabled workflows and systems. So where we are heading with this is largely we're moving from a metadata, from a siloed data that is actually either structured or unstructured, to more a unified data fabrics and lake house architecture that can support both operational and reporting model and model training at the same time. Again, easier said than done. It is not an overnight exercise. Millions and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars went into investments in the current data workspaces. I'll give an example, and we can talk more about my example. But those data warehouses or lake houses even, some of it is on-prem, part of it is in the cloud, and trying to sync up all of that together is very critical and for a successful AI evolution. Now, from a data governance and compliance, it is as critical also. Now, one thing that is for example, for those of you who are using ChatGPT or using any of the other AI chatbots and models, startups and fintechs, they don't have the same regulations and risk frameworks that constrains a North American financial institution, and I'm sure Europeans and globally all financial institutions are regulated industries that put an additional constraint on how quickly you can start developing your AI strategy and data strategies to support those AI mandates. Then you have to balance between security and privacy. Like I'll give you an example in Bank of Montreal, where I am today. We are hyper sensitive about security, and we go with the zero trust motto. That prevents us from being able to move data freely from one data store to the other. So when I'm trying to, for example, run a training model in AWS, in Amazon Web Services, and in the cloud, I cannot move everything to the cloud, and I have to be either in a situation where I am masking data, removing data, cleaning up data, and then moving it up. All of that adds friction to your data strategy and the evolution of your tech stack supporting that data. And then when you look at that, you put what I would call the most challenging governance and compliance when it comes to AI, which is preparing the data for an explainable and auditable AI models. And you all know the term hallucinations of the models. Technology-wise, we're getting better and better at enabling or removing that hallucination, enabling the what I call the reasoning model, and how you ended up with a certain. But you can imagine, as a financial institution, one of the use cases that we have, for example, is help with investment, help our customers with investment advice. It is, at this point, I don't see it happening anytime. Like, I don't see AI coming in and providing investment advice for our customers in the coming few months or maybe years, couple of years, before we are able to trace back the reasoning behind a certain investment advice. And that is important because from an audit perspective, from a governance point of view, if anything goes wrong, we will need to be able to explain what the model came up with, and you can just imagine how complex that can get. So that's from a overall data architecture and compliance. If you move to the next slide and some of the key challenges, and I covered a few of this, but I'll maybe double click on some of this. So when we talk about siloed and fragmented data ecosystems, as I said, our data is often distributed across legacy systems, business lines. So you have retail, you have commercial, you have wealth, and geographies. And within geographies, you can just imagine the jurisdiction, laws, and regulation that allows or not does not allow you to move data between the two. For example, BMO, the Bank of Montreal, we operate in Canada and the US, and we always have to balance the regulation between the US and the segregate the data between the US and Canada for all the regulatory and constraints. So, societal data, fragmented data ecosystem, poor data quality, we spoke about it, and I give you an example. You might have a customer phone number that is being updated in one customer profile while it is not the same on another profile, or you might have data lineage gaps or duplication or inaccurate data between the various systems. We see this, and again, it's a byproduct of years and decades of collecting that data and managing it. We've been on a journey for the past, I would say, 2 decades, cleaning up that data and organizing it. Even from an organizational structure perspective, we're trying to build governance that allows us to deal with this poor data quality and lineage. It's a journey. It's never an ending. It will never be an end point to it, but that's a challenge and something that a key friction point in adoption of AI. Spoke about regulatory. If you look at real-time versus batch pipelines, when we alluded to them earlier, like if you look at what we are trying to do now is trying to prevent fraud. Fraud in the financial industry is ramping up, like with AI coming in. It is mind-boggling to see how much creative the bad guys are becoming when they're trying to commit fraud against our customers. And what becomes important in that context is I need real-time data streaming to be able to detect that fraud and prevent it up front. And that goes back to how much of this I can move from real-time to batch. Lack of unified data governance. We as I said earlier, we have multiple governance entities. We have data sitting with different lines of business. We have different governance structures. All of that adds to the complexity. Scalability bottlenecks. Where to put this? I think as we continue to collect data, we are exponentially needing more storage, more network, more bandwidth, more compute. And we are starting to see those bottlenecks because, especially when you are looking at data that still resides in data centers that are owned by the organization and not on the cloud. And it's much easier to scale on the cloud, and especially in the public cloud. But on private clouds and legacy data centers, this is becoming more and more of a bottleneck, and we're trying to quickly invest in our infrastructure to help through that. Bias and representative gaps, I think that's very, very important in context of what I said earlier on, like investment advice, or even how we deal with our customers. We are very hyper vigilant to avoid any bias and try to keep these models as bias free as possible, and that is going to again add some friction and delay to the way we operate. Next slide, please, Sana. So, where do we sit from overall trends? What you're seeing, I think. The more mature your data and the more clean and the more structured, the more you have the proper governance around it, the higher the return you are seeing. And there are already, and at this early stage, you can see many organizations seeing a significant reduction in their operating cost, in their regulatory reporting, and how quickly they can report on certain data. We're seeing a lot of improvement in how credit risk is managed. So with all the geopolitical instability that is happening, I'll give you, for those of you who might be tracking the Canadian-US dynamic of the market, with all the tariffs coming and going at any given day or hour. That is leaving a significant pressure on the credit profile of our customer base within the Canadian market. And you can imagine, being a financial institution, credit is a key factor in that. How we'll be able to manage that risk, and how we accommodate for any fluctuation in the risk profile, is key to the organization profitability. And we've seen in some cases tremendous success in managing that, both for the customer, for a better customer experience, and for a better organizational risk management. So all of that is important. And on the fraud side, the fraud detection, it's been a phenomenal, I would say, success stories we've seen in the market, where a significant fraud being stopped by leveraging AI technologies. I think some of the stats here, you can see 60% of the financial institutions. I think it should be, I don't know why 60%, but I think many of the financial institutions are now looking at how they can get AI-driven data quality. It's a matter of how quickly they can move. Real-time data pipelines becoming more and more of a thing to support fraud, credit risk. And one thing that is important on the data volume, this has been constant in my mind. Like every time I've looked at stats around how the data volumes are increasing year over year, it's been exponential forever. And now we're looking at 700% increase in data storage and need over the coming 5 years. So it's just terabytes and zettabytes of data that's being created and stored and managed year over year. So that brings us to kind of a conclude on the data side. So we've covered, on the first part, we've covered infrastructure and what are the challenges. The second part, we spoke about data and how we can scale data. What are the challenges with the existing data ecosystem? Which leads me to what I would say the most challenging part of the AI era that we're living in, which is the how you empower the talent. And I just kind of gave I thought that this is going to be very interesting, and maybe the next slide, Sana, if you سمحتي. So what does it mean? Like I think when it comes to technology, when I talk about infrastructure, when I talk about data and how we manage data, it's all good. This, as I said at the beginning, over the past 25 plus years of my career, I've seen technologies come and go. Depends on whatever. Sometimes cloud has been the most recent one before AI, and then you talk about how you structure your applications, multi-tiered architectures, and what have you. What all of those technologies in the past did was pushed us as technology professionals to upskill ourselves and learn a new technology. And I think that we I think we proved ourselves to be resilient enough to be able to learn quickly and shift our understanding of the technology and our how we do software engineering. What's interesting about this era is it's now not touching the technology, it's touching us as professionals, and it's touching the software engineering professional at the core. It's similar to what happened to automation when it came in to the car manufacturing industry, where labor force that was on a production line completely got decimated. Now it's not going to be as I don't think it's going to be personally I don't think it's going to be as radical as that one, but we will need to upskill our talent significantly, and we need to do it very quickly to stay in this. So when you talk about the evolving the IT workforce, reskilling traditional IT roles for AI engineering, ML ops, and data platform expertise will become key enabler, and hence what I call the evolution of the role of traditional software engineer. Now, AI is not going to replace software engineers, but it will augment the core skills of software engineering. And that is important. It's going to augment that. And we are moving from code composing. So software engineers are going to be moving from code composing to more hybrid roles where they are going to be more of a senior engineers that are thinking about how to connect systems, how to look at end-to-end experiences and end-to-end flows, while use the AI to write your what I call the micro level code for you. So no more like the end productivity levels is going to be through the roof. Now with that and with that productivity levels of multiple times what we see today, cross-functional collaboration becomes the norm. I think we've seen a lot of with many of the agile frameworks that we've seen where business and tech came together and as unified teams, and it's less and less the boundaries and the silos between those two cross-functional teams. With AI, it's going to even further blurry the lines between technology and business, and those cross-functional teams, and between technology and data scientists. So all of that will be an interesting dynamic to see and grow over the coming years, maybe months, and we'll continue to work through it with our teams to one, train them, and two, see what does it mean for all of us. As I said, it's going to be upskilling. We're not replacement, but in my mind, I think that efficiency ratio that's going to bring, it's going to create a redundancy in the workforce, and we will see a shift from how currently software engineering is. And there's a stat here. You probably at one of the coming slides, you see the stat around what the predictions on how many jobs are being created versus eliminated. But we will see jobs, a lot of jobs created, but at the same time, a lot of jobs eliminated. So this is something that will be interesting to watch, and it's important for us as IT and technology professionals to evolve as we go. Moving to the next slide, I think this is basically a few stats, but the one that I'll call out is the one that's from the World Economic Forum. That's I think that the fourth bullet. You can see by the current projections, and I wouldn't be surprised in years from now or in a few months from now, this will be even changed. The projection is there's 170 million new jobs that will be created that are AI data roles globally. At the same time, there are 92 million jobs that may decline. So you can just imagine the magnitude and scale of shifting that talent and engineering that we have. That's basically you're creating twice as much as the jobs that you are eliminating at the same time, and that's in a span of 5 years. So this is what I would say is going to be very, very interesting to see evolve over the coming few years. Moving to the next slide, and I think this is important here. I think these are the what I call the impact of AI on IT. I try to summarize through this. I think I like this kind of a view. We can double click on all of them, but I think if you think about it from these six paradigms or six challenges. So from IT talent, we are going to see a shift in skill demand. Like by 2027, 50% of IT roles are predicted to have an AI, ML, or machine learning proficiency or familiar with AI integrated systems. So that's where we are heading with this. Traditional roles like system administrators, quality assurance testers, manual data engineers will continue to decline, and AI architects, ML engineers, ML ops experts will become high in demand. There will be what are being labeled a collapse of the junior mid-level commodity roles, and I think this is interesting, and I don't pretend that. I have an answer to this, but in my mind, this is going to be the biggest challenge for us in the industry. And the reason why I say this is, so far everything I'm saying is, well, guess what? We are going to create more jobs, so I'm not too worried about the jobs. But the jobs that you're creating require higher level of software engineering skill set. I don't know how you're going to be a higher level skilled software engineer without being junior at the first time. So what's interesting about this is there's projection that 20 to 30% of the entry level coding roles will be basically replaced by AI. But how we will learn and how we can train engineers to become senior enough to be able to play the higher architect role is going to be, I think, a challenge and something that we need to watch for. Rise of hybrid roles and cross-functional teams, we spoke about it. You will have cross-functional teams coming across the board, and that will be something that is prominent in every organization. Talent shortage intensifies, and I think that is what I was saying. Like the 170 million new jobs, 90 million eliminated. That gap of what is it, 80 million or 100 million jobs. The current projection is you're not going to be able to bridge that gap within the coming 5 years. So you're going to have a lot of talent shortages and competition for the talent from people, and that's why it's the unfortunate situation where here organizations that are wealthy and they can afford that talent will be able to go for it versus some others will not. Reskilling becomes a strategic initiative, so it's not anymore that, you know what, I'll ask my people to go to a training course because I want them to develop as an added value. It becomes strategic. And an AI will become a force multiplier, not a replacement, as we said. Yes, it will be. It will replace jobs somewhere else, but you create efficiencies to drive a lot of that. I think the next slide. Just closing remarks here. If I summarize what we've spent the past, let's say, 40 minutes now on modernizing infrastructure. Is the foundational for scaling AI. I think it's important. Without it, we will continue to be siloed and will not get that accelerated in innovation. We need high quality, well-governed data. If we don't get that, you're not going anywhere with your AI mandate as an organization. IT talent must evolve. We need to figure out how we bridge that gap, how we train our engineers, and how we evolve it. And then the hybrid complexity and regulatory pressures are real. When I say about hybrid complexity, hybrid from a environment, infrastructure perspective, hybrid from a data perspective, hybrid from a roles perspective, and then all the regulatory pressures on top of that are real and will need intentional strategy and design. And AI is already reshaping financial services. So I can tell you on the consumer side, we're trying to push as much as possible within the boundaries that we are allowed to do to our consumers, AI-driven solutions. Internally within the bank, we are enabling a lot of our processes with AI, and within technology and the building software, call it the SDLC and the PDLC, that the software development life cycle and the project development life cycle, we are enabling AI and pushing AI through it. I think that will be it. I was hoping to give more time for Q&A, but we've got 10 minutes, so I'll stop here. And I think we can open it up for questions, interjections.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Bassel. That was really amazing. في عنا سؤال already by Usaid. Usaid, I don't know if you have your hand raised. بدك تسأله. 1 second. I think it's right here. He was asking about the demanded skills. 1 second.
Why not? Shoot.
Okay, so what are the very specific skills will be needed for IT professionals AI FinTech?
Yeah. So from a skills perspective, مثل ما بالأول, as I said earlier, you need to start thinking about shifting from code composing to code architecture. And I think at the very basic level, prompt engineering to build code and build think about your software development life cycle. So you got code design, requirements design, and coding, and then you get testing. All of these require you to leverage AI. So you need to start building skills around how to leverage AI. I think that's the basics, to be honest. And that would be table stakes. If you are a software engineer and you cannot use GitHub Copilot, or you cannot use Gemini, or you cannot use Claude to generate your code safely, and that's important, and then incorporate that code and integrate that code into your applications, that will be a problem for any software engineer, whether they are new, like fresh software engineers, or established ones. I think that is important. The other one that becomes more advanced is you need to stop thinking, not stop. You cannot just stop thinking, stop your thinking process and your leadership at the engineering side. You need to start building that bridge into the business, understand what you are enabling from business process, because those boundaries between technology and business are going to be completely wiped, and you'll see really like that hybrid coming in, and I think that's important.
Amazing. تفضل أسيد. I think yes.
Hi, thank you for answering me. I have another question. So you mentioned there's a challenge, and AI will create so many senior jobs, but at the same time eliminating junior level jobs, which is a challenge. In your opinion, how do you or how can this challenge be solved, or how we can jump over this gap?
صراحة أوسايد I'm still thinking about it. بكل صراحة يعني I don't know, and I'll be very honest and transparent. لأنه the way I grew up as a software engineer, when I graduated from school and تخرجت من الجامعة ورحت اشتغلت software engineering, كنت عم بكتب code. And that's how I started building I think what we will need to understand is maybe the education system needs to change, and you start less focusing on how you build how you write the language, programming language, and move into more understanding architecture, understanding the big picture, and then see how you use AI accelerators to build that ecosystem. I'm not sure. أنا بفتح يعني I'll open the question للaudience here. If anyone can interject or give their opinion. I'm still thinking about it. سيد يعني سؤال محير بالنسبة لي.
في عنا كمان سؤال من رامي عم بسأل is there a specific course of Google or Microsoft that helps with AI integration of coding? You mentioned promote engineering, but I didn't catch what was said about it.
Sorry, I mentioned what?
Promote engineering, but he did not catch what was said about it. رامي عم بحكي.
رامي رامي في كتير a lot of courses يعني بتروح على في كتير online course platforms course there are a number of them that allows you to basically get your basic training in how you can leverage the likes of Copilot, GitHub Copilot for you to upskill yourselves. يعني صاروا available everywhere. And just Google them, and there are many of those available. But then the best part of it is experience it yourself. So تعلم the basics, but then use prompt engineering to write your code. That would be very helpful.
Thank you. أستاذ مروان, you have a question. تفضل.
يعطيك العافية. Very interesting. Thank you very much. طب إذا في عنا هلا software engineers that are already working as software engineers and زي ما احنا شايفين هلا engineering IT demand for IT engineers IT specialists is becoming a problem. يعني في عنا ألف واحد بصراحة من واحد عم بدرسوا بالجامعة IT engineering already خريجين IT engineering, وكتير ناس من اللي كانوا يشتغلوا بالشركات هلا are out of work because صار في عنا مشكلة في الديماند على IT engineers. Let's say هدول they get reskilled into AI and company. وين بيشتغلوا؟ لنفكر ناس من فلسطين مثلا. What is their work prospects? شو بيقدروا يسووا؟
هلا ليك بصراحة الوضع بفلسطين، وخاصة أنا بحكي بالوضع بفلسطين من ناحية نورث أمريكا. عرفت كيف؟ يعني أنا بحكي من ناحية I'll be very specific about the bank. بالبنوكي we have what we call a resource centers بالعالم, and they go through a rigor of certification. So when بيشتغلوا ترجع للprojection إنه we will create more jobs globally for AI centric. So نفس الشركات اللي كانت عم بتوظف قبل صحيح هلا there is a dip in the demand for traditional software engineers, but that dip will come with the contrast له رح يكون هو high demand on those software engineers that are AI literate and they can drive AI mandates going forward. When رح يشتغلوا my prediction, and again time will tell, the same organization that hired in the past will come back hiring very fast. واللي عم بيصير هلا بالنسبه برأيي انا هو انه people just taking a step back to understand شو عم بيصير حوالين. كيف؟ يعني مين اللي عم بهايرنج هن the big companies, the big the Googles of the world, Microsoft of the world. بعدين الفاينانشال اندستري لانه في عندها فلوس وعندها مصاري يعني وقاعدين they can invest. But the remaining will follow and they will start hiring. The question is how quickly we can start retraining and reskilling these engineers to be able to jump on that wave when it happens, which I think it's happening soon. Yani.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure. تفضل يا مروان.
طيب one of the things that we hear a lot أو that's being said a lot يعني بنحكى فيه كتير إنه أو what we need إنه هلا we really need to use all these superpower capabilities of AI and company in development contexts زي عندنا في البلاد to solve development problems. Would enabling هذول ال AI ال IT engineers ولا IT developers to become AI developers بتصير automatically لهم مجال للشغل ولا what does it take يعني what's your thoughts on that؟ سوري أنا عم بسأل هيك يعني كلنا عم نتخبط نعرف شو بدنا نسوي بهذا الموضوع. So I'm asking هيك general questions.
لا مروان حقك يعني انا نفس الاسئله عندي بصراحه يعني we are all asking it's وعم احكيك انا من ناحيه انه انا within the North America within an organization that is really in the driving some of these changes and we are struggling. عرفت كيف؟ يعني نحن بفكر على Bank of Montreal top 10 بنورث امريكا we have AI chief executive, chief AI officer. We have all what we need to do. ونحن we're trying to catch up. عرفت كيف؟ فسؤالك محله. Will they be able to? Yes. I mean, they will find jobs. The question هو إنه how quickly برجع بقول لك go back. We have to develop engineers. They have to develop those skills. وبدك تروح من go away from the traditional بعمل لك writing code. وبس تكتب كود على الحلو بلا تعرف شو الباك جراوند behind it ما رح we will not be successful as careers لانه بدك تعرف ال problems. To your point يعني solving bigger problems largely going to be business driven or society driven problems. عرفت كيف؟ يعني نحن we'll try to solve problems now كان هن business بالنهايه كان بنعتمد انا كسوفت وير انجينير انا لما بلشت my career اللي شو بدك بالابلكيشن انا go build it for you. عرفت كيف؟ اللي انت شو بدك اعطيني الريكوايرمنتس تبعونك انا go build it. It's going to be no, I will be involved in actually driving that requirement. فما بعرف اذا جاوبتك مروان او ما لا حتى ما اكون صريح يعني ما جاوبتك مباشره بس it's an ongoing very I would say dynamic and volatile environment that we're living in. Like بقول لك انا my team بالبنك my ask from them go learn the basics يعني تعلم كيف عم تعمل مش prompt engineering use the tools the AI tools available لانه اذا we don't use it مثل انا بقول لك بتستعمل بايام زمان لما طلع المايكروسوفت وورد اذا ما عندك ما تعمل او مايكروسوفت اوفيس اذا ما استعملت المايكروسوفت اوفيس you're going nowhere. عرفت كيف؟ فنفس الشيء هلا نحن جايين بهالايرا انه ما بستعمل AI that's your basic that's your starting point.
Thank you.
تفضل.
طب اوكي بس سؤال صغير اخير. Will we be able to get will the business people اللي عندهم good expertise راح يصيروا يقدروا يعملوا الشغل اللي كانوا يعملوه ال IT developers?
Some of it
they
yes.
will be still.
Some of it will be. أنا شايف أنا عندي بعرف ناس business that are now using AI to write applications. هلا ما راح يقدروا يعملوا complex application بس عشان بالنهاية في عندك disciplines يعني أنت بدك تتعلم كمان software engineer you're gonna grow up and you're gonna build and skills but the basics of يعني مثلا prototypes now I know that there are some business partners عندي بالبنك they can build their own prototypes. So go back to عم بقول لك انه هذا blurring the lines او اللاين رح يختفوا بين ال functional areas. That cross functional area is going to go away and this is where it's going to be the main challenge for us.
Okay, perfect. هيك تمام أستاذ مروان. أستاذ أسيد تفضل.
Thank you. Thank you again. So you mentioned about the challenges of having AI in financial services, like the infrastructure and regulations, etc. like, do you think there is a specific niche that can come in the top of your head about like something that we can do right now with the current technologies that we have? Like, for example, we can like with the current technology we can't like make something like investment advices. We can't have that with the current advancements. But do you think with the current technology that we have, we can do something like an idea or something?
Absolutely, Usaid. يعني حتى financial advice, you can do it today. It is available. The only challenge with not doing it أو مش قادر تعملها هو إنه can you إذا أجاك regulator government، إذا أنا جيت عملت لك app وعملت الادفايس، it's about just making sure في عندك rational. بس اطلع على chat GPT 4.0 أو اللي بعده 4.5 start reasoning are coming into the Gen AI models. The moment you get into this, some of the barriers will be eliminated. But أكيد with what you have today, technology, we are seeing ideas and thoughts that have never been thought before coming to life. It's going to accelerate the innovation بمستويات كتير عالية. To answer your question, absolutely, you can do things today that حتى you was not possible just a few months back.
Do you have a kind of very specific idea?
Specific ideas. I mean, personal assistants are becoming more and more. And بس احكي personal assistants عم نحكي مش بس على specific على on your own personal life, but using them اللي هن هلا بيسموهم بالindustry agentic AI. Think about any process or any activity that is specialized, and you can build what we call an agent, an AI agent, and handle it under agentic AI to enable that process. يعني بعطيك example. إذا بتحكي مع if you call the bank وبدك تدفع فاتورة. Today في عندك ال IVRs اللي هن automated answering machines هذول اللي كانوا in the past they were go by just a predetermined flow. Press 1, press 2, press 3 عرفت كيف؟ أو احكي هلا we're going into no, I will be your agent. إذا بدك تدفع فاتورة just قل لي شو بدك تعمل and I'm gonna go. With background, you are not actually programming this to do a specific task. You're giving it to learn on itself. So هدول agentic AIs agents are becoming like spreading like fire in all of our other organizations, and that's good. That's an idea. That's one of the ideas that you can build agents that can do. حتى بس بالsoftware engineering، ما بعرف إذا أنت قصيت بالsoftware engineering ولا بس كsoftware engineer, you can build agents, for example, to test your code. You can build agents to generate UI, like you generate a certain UI capability. Build an agent to produce a native, a mobile native application, an iOS application or an Android application.
Yeah, that did answer my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks all for participating, and thank you أستاذ باسل الحر. عن جد شكرا على هاي الويبينار الكتير حلو ومفيد وقيم، وأنا متأكدة إنه جميع الموجودين انبسطوا في هذا النقاش واستفادوا. شكرا على وقتك، وشكرا إنك كنت ضيف مميز وضفت إشي كتير حلو لبرنامجنا. بتمنى لك إن شاء الله يوم سعيد. لكل الحضور شكرا لكم على وجودكم وعلى تفاعلكم. أكيد بحب إنه أنا صراحة بعتت هلأ زي feedback form عن البرنامج in general، إذا بتحبوا كمان to suggest any speakers. بحب إنكم تدخلوا على هذا الفورم وتعبوه، رح يكون كتير قصير. أستاذ مروان I think رديت رفعت إيدك، صح؟ عندك سؤال؟ عشان أنا
لا بالغلط سوري.
اوكي خلص تمام. فشكرا كثير لكم، بتمنى انكم عن جد انبسطتوا معنا، وبتمنى لكم ليله سعيده. شكرا كثير استاذ باسل.
شكرا لك سناء، وشكرا لكم كلكم، وممنونكم على حضوركم اليوم، و it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. It was a pleasure for us actually. يعطيك الف عافيه، وان شاء الله نشوفك في تعاون مستقبلي كمان في اشياء
ان شاء الله.
شكرا يعطيك الف عافيه.
سلام.
مع السلامه، باي.